So years ago in the Burlington County Chamber of Commerce, I had the opportunity to hear our next guest speaker, Dave Mcgrogan, speak. And, yeah, a good amount of it was business, but the biggest thing that impacted me was hearing him speak of the rhino mentality, right? And the reason why I kind of started off this call about like, hey, don't get so maybe you're like, I'm not ready to expand or whatever, to grow nationally or whatever it may be. This, at the end of the day, we always need to be working on our mindset. And when he talks about this rhino mentality that he wrote a book on, this will help you execute having higher belief, but also doing more to grow your business now. So eventually you can think to expand. So I was super inspired by his speech at the Burlington County Chamber. Then we connected on social media, and I've been following his journey for probably 5 years now, continuing to see him be a leader in not just our area, but in all of the East Coast, continuing to see him expand restaurants, share his journey, win awards. He just won the top 100 entrepreneurs at the Union League. There are some incredible business owners in this ceremony that were awarded in the Union League. Countless. Oh, I would be here for 10 minutes naming all the entrepreneurial business awards that he's had and that he's won. But he's also the owner of Harvest Seasonal Grill, which is right in Morristown and expanding all throughout Florida, in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania. He's also opening up another restaurant in Mount Laurel that we will talk about. So you guys get the point, right? Very successful, crushing it. And these are the people that I want to come in and plant seeds to your guys' mind so you can get fired up, you can get motivated, you can get tactics, and you can hear and learn from people that are doing stuff that the one percenters in our nation are doing. That's the value that you get in here. But what I will say is this, guys, remember, take notes. No question is a dumb question. What is that problem right now? At the end of this call, you're going to have an option to ask, to get some Q&A from somebody who's doing business and life at this level. If you are not asking questions, well, that means that your business has expanded. That means that your business is so profitable right now that you have no unanswered questions. And that's not the case for a lot of you. So don't waste the opportunity on this call afraid to ask a question, right? And please, sometimes somebody on this call may want to hear the answer to that. So please take advantage of this call, write notes down. And the way you can thank the community, Dave, me, after this call is execution, right? Actually, take one or two things that you're like, you know what? I'm not sitting on this information. I'm gonna start putting this into my schedule, into my life, whatever it is. Reach out to the community, hold each other accountable to do it. But let's have breakthroughs because we got an inspiring entrepreneur here that's ready to pour into us. So, Dave, thank you so much for investing your time 7 to 8 a.m. to be in front of our community of entrepreneurs, man. I really value and I'm thankful that you took the time to do this and speak to my family here in the Harvest, man. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Devin. Thanks for having me. Thank you to everybody for getting up and doing this morning. As a restaurant owner, 7 a.m.s aren't always the easiest times for me to get up. I'm more of a night owl, but I do want to thank you, Devin. And we've gotten to know each other over the years and really love what you're doing and helping the community and inspiring people. And, Devin mentioned a bunch of awards and this, that, and the other. I think the most important thing to realize is for every award or group of awards you get, there's just hundreds of failures behind that award. There's no such thing as somebody that's just perfect all the time. And sometimes we see these young entrepreneurs too that just seem like they're amazing and everything's great, and then you watch them and they have to go through a couple of years of learning curves after they do a little bit too much and stuff. So I think an important thing to remember is while success seems like, oh, everybody's crushing it, every entrepreneur is dealing with failures all the time. You're always going to deal with failures. Nothing you do is ever going to be perfect. And I think that's important because I don't want people to have a misconception that every entrepreneur out there and even the biggest, most successful guys and girls they're still making a ton of mistakes. And I always use that in the restaurant business. You look at a giant chain like Bloomin' Brands, they have 1,800 restaurants, Outback, Carrabba's, things like that. They still end up closing Outback units. They still end up closing Carrabba units. They still end up closing Fleming's units and Bonefish units. They pick what they think is the perfect location. They have all the money in the world. They have all the data, all the research. They open up and it's the wrong location, wrong management team, wrong chef, whatever it is. So I think in that type of situation, it's really important to try to remember that you are going to have failures, you are going to have setbacks, and that's part of being an entrepreneur. So if you want to grow, you're gonna have failures and setbacks, and you have to accept that as part of the course. So I think real quick, if I can give everybody a brief background on where I came from, I think it'll give you some perspective. So I grew up in Delaware County, moved all around Delaware County all my life. My mom and dad were divorced. My mom raised me and my two sisters. We moved about 8 times before I was in 7th grade. So we moved a lot. And in those times, I learned how to deal with people. I learned how to go from one school to another school to another school. And I was a little kid. I wasn't big or tall or strong. So you'd be the littlest kid that ends up in the school. There was always a bully. There was always somebody that had to prove themselves, and taught me a lot about dealing with people. And I actually sort of got to enjoy the moves. And, my sisters didn't feel the same way. It bothered them. I actually found ways to enjoy the sort of excitement of going to new places, dealing with new people, and dealing with new things. So I graduated Sun Valley High School. I went to Westchester University for pre-med. I graduated chiropractic school in 1996. I went to chiropractic school in Atlanta, Georgia. And I had 2 large chiropractic practices, one in Brookhaven, one in Media. Opened them myself, worked my butt off. Most chiropractors work 30, 40 hours a week. I work 60 hours a week. We built a couple big practices and did really well. And then I opened my first Kildare's Irish pub in 2003, and I was going to continue to practice. And then by 2006, we had 5 pubs, and we just were shocked at how fast we grew it. We grew it too fast, quite honestly. But we grew, and everybody loved it, and it became this great brand. And then I sold my chiropractic practices. I had a real estate company. I had about 12 pieces of real estate, mostly commercial or multi-unit. Started to sell most of those off so I could focus on my restaurant brands. And we ended up developing about 5 or 6 restaurant brands. So Kildare's, Doc Mcgrogan's Oyster House, Red Star Craft House, Grady David's, Bar Rosa. And then in 2010, we developed the Harvest brand. And the Harvest brand, we knew something was right there. It clicked. And every other brand I developed, there was some limiting factor. We were up to 14 Kildare's pubs, all the way down to UNC in North Carolina, and all the way over to Notre Dame University. But we kept meeting these limitations on various issues why I wasn't going to grow that brand to a bigger brand. We had our seafood brand, Doc Mcgrogan's. There was 5 of those. And then, if you've noticed, there's very little there's very few national chains in seafood. You have Bonefish, you had McCormick and Schmick's. They sort of went bankrupt. They sort of exist. It's a very regional concept. It's pretty interesting when you think about that. And we discovered that as well, trying to grow that brand. Legal Seafoods is a good example. They came down from Boston. Their expansion in Philadelphia didn't really work. And they stopped their expansion. So as we went along, we learned. And then we opened up this Harvest brand, and we're like, wow, this fits. People really like it. It also really fit with me and my chiropractic lifestyle. All the nutrition and everything I learned in chiropractic, I could apply in my Harvest brand. And we accommodate people with every type of allergy, every type of food and sensitivity. And we're working with local farmers. We have high quality ingredients. You can go to Harvest and you're going to eat dinner and get healthier, not sicker. And that was nice, because if you go to most restaurants, most full service restaurants, you're going to eat 2,000 or 3,000 calories. There's going to be tons of butter and dairy and junk in it. We don't even use butter at Harvest. So we try to use healthy oils and things like that. We don't have a fryer. So we made certain choices, and that brand really resonated with us and our consumers. So we raised private equity on Harvest a few years ago. We're continuing to grow that brand. And at the same time, I love opening one-off brands that might possibly grow. We opened a restaurant in Jupiter called the Jupiter Grill, premium steak and seafood. We're opening one in Mount Laurel called the Monterey Grill, right at the Aloft Hotel there. And that's going to be a premium steak and seafood restaurant as well. Sometimes the reason I like to do that is I like to experiment with stuff outside of my structure of my company, outside of the bureaucracy that every company creates. I run my own company, and I get tired of my own company. How long it takes me to do something in Harvest versus how long it takes me to do something at Jupiter Grill is dramatically different. We have 700 employees at Harvest. So, everything you do can impact everybody else. We ended up buying this little sports bar in North Carolina out of COVID, and it's $100,000 a week sports bar in Greensboro, North Carolina. It's actually one of my places of joy right now in my heart. I've got 2 managers, 3 key employees. They're great people. Restaurants crushing it. And I'm not even a big sports guy, so to own a sports bar for me wasn't ever in my wheelhouse. But we saw this great opportunity to buy the real estate and existing business, and we took that business from 80,000 a week to 100,000 a week over 6 months. And we did that by empowering the employees and applying some principles that the previous owners weren't. But as an example, I like dealing with that brand because when I learn about how I'm managing those people, I manage that brand with just myself and an accountant, bookkeeper, and a marketing person. And that's it. There's no other layer. There's no CFO. There's no director of ops. Everybody reports to me. And it's been really fun because I've taken some of that back to Harvest to say, we can streamline this, guys. We're getting too slow and fat to make this thing work. So that's sort of me. Along the way, I've made a ton of mistakes. I've learned from every one of them. I'm going to continue to make mistakes. You never know in this industry what's going to work, what's not going to work. You can have the best idea and something happens that doesn't work well, or something happens from the outside. We're going into an economic winter right now, and we've been in it actually for a while. I'm aware of that as we grow. We've got interest rates rising. We've got layoffs coming. We've got recession. But some of the absolute best businesses were built during that time. So we actually expanded and grew in 2007 and 8 when most restaurants were crumbling at the economic collapse of 2007 and 8. So we're aware of sort of where we are and what we're doing. And I guess one of the best examples I can share with you of a recent openings that we've done. We opened a restaurant in Collegeville, big, beautiful Harvest, prime corner in a beautiful development, Providence Town Center. And we had penciled that out to do about 90 to 110,000 a week, depending on the week and the time of year. Beautiful location, probably one of the nicest restaurants we've ever built. Great management team that had been with us for a while. And, it all looks great. And around 3 months later, we opened a new restaurant in North Wales, Pennsylvania. Across from our old Harvest, we built a new Harvest and grew it. We penciled that Harvest in at 80,000 a week. So the one in North Wales is doing 105,000 a week. The one in Collegeville is doing 80,000 a week. Sometimes you just don't know, right? And now what we have to do is we have to make Collegeville busier, but we're really thankful that North Wales took off much bigger than we expected. So we were conservative on one business, overly optimistic on the other, and you're going to do that throughout your entire career. Oh, I'm going to expand and I'm going to do this and it's going to be perfect and it's going to do this. Your best plans are not going to always come out. So, and it still amazes me that restaurant in Collegeville, it's bigger. I think it's the prettiest one we built. There's still something that's not quite getting us to that 98 to 100,000. It could be some of the employees. It could be competition in the market. It could be a dozen different things. So we'll work on it. We'll fix it, but it's interesting. So I guess if I can start off, I did a little list here of things that I think are important for entrepreneurs at all stages in their life. Big ones, little ones, people coming out with their own small business, people growing a bigger business. I've found some principles along the way that just to be really helpful. And I think a lot of us forget these principles. And I think that we end up making mistakes along the way that we could prevent. So the first ones are basic entrepreneurial laws of success. So these are just like the laws of gravity. If you've ever listened to a Tony Robbins, a Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, they always talk about principles and how they function just like the law of gravity. You may not see them, but you're going to feel them, right? You jump off a 3rd-story building, you're going to feel it. You can not believe in gravity all you want. You're going to fall to the ground. These laws of success are the same thing. You can say, oh, I don't buy that law of success stuff. Well, then go ahead and break these laws, and you're going to wonder why you're not successful. So the fundamental one, and Napoleon Hill used to write about this a lot, and Clement Stone, and this is really a critical one, and I deal with it all the time, is a positive mental attitude. And Devin, you have this attitude, and you get up every day, and we all have bad days. We all have bad months, weeks, years. We can have horrible things happen to us, but we need to go out in that world with a positive mental attitude. The positive attitude lets you see opportunities versus the setbacks and the failures and the obstacles. So that positive mental attitude is just picture that as your foundation. That if you leave your house in the morning and you go to, let's use real estate as an example, you're going to go show somebody a property or try to close a deal or whatever it is, and you walk into that room in a negative attitude and whatever's going on in your home life or whatever happened in your financial life or whatever happened yesterday on a deal that didn't work, and you carry that forward to your deal that day, you're going to then lose that deal that day because you walked into that deal not focused on it and not having the right attitude. And a positive mental attitude is contagious. People like to be around it. And I'm not talking about over the top crazy motivation, right? You don't have to be some over the top person to do this, but having that positive attitude, people like to be around it. It's inspiring. The people that don't like to be around a positive attitude, you should watch those people because you probably don't want to be around them or do much with them. But that positive mental attitude will help you see opportunities instead of obstacles. So it's a core foundation. It's hard to do. If you go into an office every day or a work setting, or you go and interact, I do this in my restaurants. I could get off the phone with a bank that's telling me, hey, we're raising your interest rates three points and you got to make a $500,000 payment. And I got to walk into a restaurant right then and say hi to a host. I'm not pissed off at the host and saying, "Oh, I'm so mad over this bank." I say to the host, "Hi, how are you today?" I got to turn that off. I got to start a new segment in my day. Okay, and that's what that positive attitude do. Next thing is you have to have a definite purpose. You have to have an absolute, clear, definite purpose. Now, if you're a smaller entrepreneur trying to start out to launch either your second location or your next brand or whatever it is, the most important thing to realize is, do you have a lot of other stuff you're focused on that's going to not let you focus all of your resources on this next thing? So I'm lucky in that I have a team of a lot of people. So I can come up with an idea and then I can put people to work on that idea and then I can manage those people. So as an example, our restaurant, New Jersey, Monterey Grill, it opens in about 30 days. I was just down in Florida for the past 7 days. I wasn't even on site at all. I wasn't on site the past 3 days. I'll be there today. Right after this call, I'm driving over there. So I have a good team of great executive chef, great director of operations, great managing partner for the restaurant. So it's now their definite purpose to make that restaurant great. And now I'm managing them. When you're smaller, you can't do that, right? If you decide, hey, tomorrow I want to open a restaurant, you got to let everything else go and focus on that restaurant. If you decide tomorrow I want to be a real estate agent, you got to focus all your energy into that. So when you're first trying to grow and expand and do things and focus, try to make sure you don't have 20 balls in the air. Okay. You can do that as you get bigger. Pat Croce used to call it plate spinning. You got 10 plates spinning. Some people can be great plate spinners. Some people can only spin 2 plates. Some people can only spin 1. Understand where you are in your life and it's okay. But the more you focus on something with intensity, the more it will grow. Okay. So that's really important. When I did that in the Kildare's years, that's why we grew from like 1 to 5 so quick overnight. It was just, it consumed me. I just loved it. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. So the next one is law of cause and effect. This is about planting good seeds. You'll get a good crop. I mean, it's a biblical law. It goes all the way back. But people try to break this law all the time, okay? Look for win-win situations. Look for long-term relationships. Realize that where you are today is a result of your past relationships. And listen, in business, not everything goes well. It just happens. There's going to be bad deals. There's going to be feelings hurt. There's going to be times when people think you did them wrong. You're going to think you did. But if your intention is to not do people wrong and your intention is to do the right thing, plant the right seeds, you'll keep getting opportunities. I'm always amazed at the crazy opportunities that come about because of knowing people and doing things. As Devin mentioned, I got to speak at the Philly Top 100 the other week. Our company won that 4 or 5 times, and I guess we could still win it. We've never applied anymore, but they asked me to come in and speak, and I was shocked how many people in that room I knew over the years. Didn't really know, but knew loosely. I was shocked how many people came up to me and read my book that was published a decade plus ago. And it was just really inspiring to say, wow, we planted some good seeds and now look at these people and how they're interacting. And there was also a ton of people in the room that had some experiences at our restaurants over the years. So there was this neat feeling for a lot of people, like, I'm a part of that. I know that. I went there. So think about the seeds you plant. If you're not happy where you are today, you probably planted some bad seeds. You want to start planting better seeds, start having with a positive mental attitude. If your attitude's positive, you're just going to plant better seeds. Law of attraction. I think we all know about law of attraction. What we think about, we bring about. Really critically important, though. You cannot underestimate the power of your mind and your thinking. If what you think about all day is, I know this is going to go wrong, this deal is going to go wrong, that's going to go wrong. There's already enough things that can make things go wrong. The more you think about it, bring it in your reality and stress over it and have anxiety, instead of saying, how am I going to make this thing go right? How am I going to attract good and positive things to me? So look for ways to constantly think of the things you want, not the things you don't have. And then when you have, I brought it up before, there's going to be different segments in your day. As you have different segments in your day, try to attract the right things to you in those segments. So try to change. So as an example, I was thinking today, this morning when I'm shaving, I was thinking people are getting up at 7 a.m. to listen to me talk, I got to give them energy. I got to give them enthusiasm. I got to give them real facts that they can use in their life. That if everybody on this call walks away with one or two things that makes their life better, then it was worth it. Then I conveyed, because you also, with success and looking at people that you want to follow, people you want advice from, pick what you like, where you like it. Nobody has it all right. Some days I could drive to work, listen to an old Jim Rohn thing on like YouTube or on Spotify podcast. Some of the Jim Rohn stuff is just awesome. And he's like this simple farm boy from Idaho. And I just love how he expressed. But sometimes I need a Tony Robbins yelling at you in your face stuff, right? So we can pick different things from different days. Persistence is the next law. You have to persist, but you can adapt. And I think some people can persist all the way to falling off the cliff. You don't have to do that. Don't let your pride and ego get in the way. Persist, and then sometimes adapt. So, my goal was to have 25 harvests or 25 Kildares, sell the company for $50 million. We ended up realizing by the 14th, really by the 10th store, how hard it was going to be to do that. We were 80% alcohol, 20% food. That limited the market of who would ever buy us. We constantly had manager turnover. As our managers matured, they didn't want to work in the brand. A 24-year-old manager wanted to work in the brand. A 30-year-old manager didn't. 24-year-old manager makes a lot of mistakes and there's a lot of liability, right? So we realized that we wanted to get into more of a polished casual dining and something that would have a broader appeal. And that's where we shifted and went to harvest. So I didn't leave the restaurant business. I shifted my vehicle. I got into a different vehicle. So you may have this great idea that you want to achieve X, Y, and Z, and then you may find along the way that maybe it doesn't fit all your skill sets. Maybe it isn't what you're really passionate about, but that may give you a new vehicle to launch into and grow. So as an example, I kept my chiropractic offices for 2 to 3 years when I started my Irish pubs. And I kept them because I wanted to keep that vehicle in case I wanted to get back in. And instead, I sold the chiropractic practices. So next one, law of abundance. There's an abundance. We live in the best country on earth. Everybody can sort of complain how they want to complain in this new world that we live in. But America, no matter who you are, is still the country with the most opportunities. It was built that way. It was built with freedom, liberty, and opportunity. And if you work hard, yes, none of us start at the same place. I started out in crappy basement apartments. I was a latchkey kid. My mom worked hard. I had to choose. Was I going to apply myself or was I going to goof off with some of my friends? I have friends that I grew up with that are 50 years old that still live at home with their parents because of the choices they made of drugs and alcohol and various things, right? So I made different choices. We all make our choices, but we live in a country that's got so much abundance. And yes, a government regulation can stink. This can be bad. That can be bad. But overall, if you were to go from this country to another country, we've got tons of opportunity. So don't look at, oh, well, I don't have this opportunity because of this or because of that or because of that, right? I went to Pendelco School District, not the best school district. I went to Westchester University. Good school, not a great school. One of my best business partners and best friends went to Petty and went to Princeton. He obviously graduated Princeton with a lot more opportunity than I graduated from Westchester. And his Rolodex the day he graduated from Princeton was way better than the one it took me a decade to build. But I still could build a Rolodex, right? So if you don't have abundance in your life, look where you're blocking it and look where you're preventing abundance. I can give you a quick story about this. I was a chiropractor. I was about 6 months into practice. And our net income 6 months in, after I paid all my bills, that month, my income was $68,000 in 1 month. My mom was a nurse. She put herself through nursing school when I was in 3rd grade. We lived in Eddystone on 11th Street. I can remember this. The only time we were ever on welfare, food stamps. I can remember getting a block of cheese. I can remember getting the eggs. I can, all this, all that kind of stuff, right? I can remember that. And being in a house where we didn't have heat and using a kerosene heater. My mom put herself through nursing school through a year to be an LPN, right? To make our life better, right? And I can remember all of those feelings and I can remember all of that. You grow out of that and you have to take all these opportunities in life and you have to realize, I saw somebody comment that there's another Pendelco person. So, hey, Vanguard, yes, agree. I love Pendelco. I'm just saying where we started out, you got to grow from. So, I'm sitting there as a chiropractor making $68,000 a year, remembering living in Eddystone and not being able to afford kerosene heat. For my Pendelco friend on there, when I lived in Parkside on Avon Road, the other side of my street was Chester. My side was Parkside. So that's where I lived, right? I lived next to the old Taco Bell on Edgemont Avenue, which is now Pat's Pizzeria. So as I got abundance in my life, what did I feel bad about? I felt bad that my mom as a nurse never made more than 35,000 a year. And I said, man, this is really unfair. My mom works, 300 days a year to make 35 grand. And I just worked 25 days last month and I have $68,000 in my pocket. So the following weeks, months, do you think my practice grew or stayed stagnant? It was stagnant. Why? Because my own guilt, because I didn't feel worthy of 68. And instead, what I started to do was take care of my mom, help my family, take the wealth that I had achieved and shared it with people that were important to me. And then I felt good about having wealth and say, well, now I need more wealth because I want to help more people. And within 3 months, and the practice was up to netting about 100,000 a month. So, but why did it stay stagnant? It stayed stagnant because I didn't believe I was good enough. I didn't believe I deserved it. My grandfather was a coal miner, right? And then they moved to Woodland, Pennsylvania, and he became a union painter. So my grandparents didn't come from much. I didn't come from much. So when I achieved wealth, I felt bad and I started to block it. I started to self-sabotage. Tony Robbins talks about that all the time. There's a thermostat. When that thermostat goes up, you get uncomfortable, you bring it back down. So if you're comfortable at 68 degrees and you start cranking it and you're up to 72 degrees and you're making more money and everything's great, you go, wait a minute, do I identify this way? I don't know. I don't know if I feel comfortable. And all of a sudden you bring it back down, right? But all of a sudden, if you're at 68 and you drop to 65, well, that's a little too uncomfortable. Now you're cold. So you're going to work a little harder and close a few deals, right? I see this with restaurant operators. Take somebody who runs a $5 million restaurant, give them a $4 million restaurant, they grow it to 5. Take somebody who runs a 4 and give them a 5. If they're not ready, they're going to take your 5 down to a 4. We have a comfort level, so acknowledge that with yourself. Then the last thing, since we're talking business, is there's a law of customer satisfaction that we all have to remember. We all work for somebody, right? So a client, a restaurant guest, whatever it is. At the end of the day, customers want the very best they can get for the lowest possible price. That's how a customer is motivated. So don't ever forget that. So you want to give them the best you can possibly give them. And yes, they're the people that want the Louis Vuitton purse and this, that, and the other. Yes, but they also see that as the highest quality product, so it's worth the price. So deliver the best product you can possibly deliver, but make sure there's some value there for the consumer. And that's what ends up making your business grow. So a simple example, at Harvest, we do this restaurant week menu a few times a year. And our more value-oriented consumers always come in for that. They always come in for that. It's a more value-oriented play, and we do it on purpose, and we cycle it through because not everybody wants to go to Harvest and buy a $29 piece of salmon for dinner. They don't care necessarily where their salmon came from, whatever. We lower the price a little bit. People come in. They see the value of what we do, and we always convert people to regular guests when we do that. So there are some basic laws of success that I live by, and we all have to try to live by, and we're going to forget them and mess them up. But again, make your purpose clear and have a good attitude, and that changes the game immediately.
Dave, could I run through that real quick, just so
Sure.
everybody can, guys, please write this down. This is what you're here for, right? So I have positive, first, positive mental attitude. Second, a definite purpose. Third, law, law of cause and effect. 4, law of attraction. 5, law of abundance. 6, law of customer satisfaction. I believe I missed one.
You missed law of persistence. After law of attraction, law of persistence, which means get knocked down, get back up. But don't do it based on ego, and don't do it if all the data is telling you the wrong thing. When you need to cut. It's fine. Everybody does it. So the next thing, Devin brought up, I wrote a book called Do It Rhino Style. And it's a success book, not a sex book, right? So I used to tell people that. It's called Do It Rhino Style. And I came across a book when I was in chiropractic school called Rhinoceros Success. It really gelled with me. When I'd be in my chiropractic office stressed out or frustrated or whatever, I would read this little book. It was a 50-page book. So Do It Rhino Style is just this cool book that I wrote, and it's about 70 pages. And it's meant to be read by entrepreneurs. It's meant when you're sitting there under your desk crying because you can't cover payroll, you read this book and you go, all right, I'll do this. I'll get through this, right? It's meant to give you thick skin, right? You're sitting there going, how am I going to pay my mortgage this month? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to pay my office rent? Whatever it is, right? This book is meant to energize you at some of your darkest hours. And it's meant to help you goal set and focus. So in writing that book, what I basically sum it out to is, and there's many ways that this has been done, but in my world, in my life, in the jungle I live in, there's two animals. There's a rhino that goes and charges and gets what it wants, and there's a cow that stands in the field. The cow represents the bureaucracy, the victim mentality, the people that are miserable, they hate stuff, they never see the opportunities. They want as much as they can get for as little effort as they can put out. The rhinos, they graze, they hang out, and then when they see something that they absolutely want, they charge full steam ahead. They don't have another setting. When they see something they want, they have no fear, they have no obstacles, they're not scared of being the victim, they're not scared of somebody taking advantage of them, they're just going to go and charge at what they want. So in life, do you want to be the person that's around the water cooler bitching about your boss, complaining about various things, or do you want to be the person that owns the office, right? The rhino owns the office, and the top people in that company are probably all rhinos as well, right? So the rhino goes forward, gets what it wants, and isn't scared. There's a book I recently read called The Sun and the Salt, highly recommended. I have it right here. Great little easy book. A friend of mine turned me on to it. I'm going to give it to all my managers. Fun little book, easy to read. I like that because we're all so busy, right? You look at a 700-page book and you go, oh, am I ever going to finish that, right? I like small ones. So the sun or the salt is basically you have the option of being the sun on somebody's leaves or the salt on their roots. Great analogy, right? You can be a rhino and help people charge, be positive, be energetic, or you can be the cow telling them the 50 reasons why they shouldn't leave the field. Right. So, and then it's the hero or the victim, right? There's all different analogies for this, but I like the rhino cow. It makes sense. So rhinos look for opportunities. A critical thing about being a rhino, surround yourself with other rhinos, which is exactly why everybody's on this call. It's exactly why Devin does what he does, right? So you have this world that's constantly negative. You could watch the news all day and you think the world's going to end every single day. You think everybody's mean. You think everybody's racist. You think everybody hates people that are this, that, and the other. This is what the world tells us every day. When you get in a circle of like-minded people, you find that people are pretty kind, pretty nice, and people are pretty much worried about themselves. They're not worried about other people. They're worried about how can I move forward in my life? And if you get around a bunch of positive charging people, it'll open up opportunities. It'll keep you motivated. It'll make big things happen, right? So look for that. The cows, on the other hand, they focus on the problems, not the solutions. They always focus on the problems and not the solutions. They focus on, they don't have a growth mindset, where the rhino has a growth mindset that says there's abundance out here. There's plenty. Sure, that government regulation stinks. Sure, I lost that deal over there. Interest rates have risen. There's all these things we can focus on, or you can say, how do you find deals? When interest rates have risen, how do you find deals? I'm starting to see in Florida little things of foreclosures going on, little stuff popping up in my Zillow, and I'm like, this will be interesting. What are we going to be able to accomplish down in Florida, right? So we're seeing some restaurants close. We're seeing some things happen as the economy contracts. So we don't see that as, oh, we should go circle the wagons. We see, is there some opportunities here? So the rhino, the cow also wants the most out of life without the blood, sweat, and tears. And I hate to break it to you, it doesn't work that way. So I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, but there has to be action tied to the law of attraction. You can't sit in your office all day and go, I want this, I want this, I want to attract this. You have to get out and work, and you do have to make stuff happen. Okay. So, so going from the rhino into, do you have any questions about that, Devin?
No, no, man. Sometimes just hearing it simple like that, sometimes people have to have it. You know what? Just think about a rhino versus, I don't know, maybe a whole paragraph of a book that they read.
Right.
Very good analogy, very simple analogy. Just to remind yourself, guys, we need little lines like this, little visuals like this to keep us operating at our highest potential every day. Because externally, so many people get buried by simple, small distractions.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me. So what can we have in place? What can we think about in place to bounce right back and charge? And that's why I love that analogy.
Yeah, we have signs in our office that say "Don't be a cow," and it's to remind you. We always deal with stuff, in our own businesses where it's like, what, and I'll have to confront managers and corporate staff, and a lot of that too. If you want to be a rhino, when you have a meeting, have that meeting with a definite outcome, and say, what is our outcome today? So I'll have a store that'll have an issue, right? So we have a Harvest in Delaware County, and that store has gone through some management turnover, and I'm trying to get the new management team and chef to be really focused on every penny they spend, the sales they're growing. I make them do a weekly call with me. Most other managers don't do that. Every Tuesday, they do a 15-minute call with me. They have to break down every dollar they spent, why they spent it, this, that, and the other. And it's amazing to watch how we've trimmed spending $3,000-4,000 a week. So times that by 50 weeks a year, it's $200,000 in profit. And we had to confront them and say, what you're doing is not working. What is our outcome goal that we all share? Our outcome goal is we want this business to make more, because all my restaurant managers, my top level managers and chef at each store make serious bonuses. So once I show them that they're losing $40,000 a year of bonus, I want to give you this 40,000. You're not letting me because you're not running the business right. And so you sit down and say, what is the outcome? And then it's not just, you don't want them working just for me, right? What was the most important outcome to that manager? Oh, wait, I'm leaving 40 grand of bonus potential on the table. That will motivate me. Not, I want to make Dave more money, right? So making sure that we tie back in that. So
Hey, real quick, Kevin the Duke has a comment. I believe it was back when we were talking about the Rhino mentality. Kevin, you want to comment real quick?
Yeah, sorry, Dave. I appreciate you coming on, buddy. Well, you're speaking volumes to me in a lot of different ways. So one of the things that I do a lot of the time, because I found myself in situations where I was like, man, this isn't going to work out. This is, I'm stressed about this, stressed about that. I ask myself the question, what's the alternative? Like, if it doesn't work out, like, what's the alternative? What are you going to, what are you going to do? You're going to give up? Are you going to just close everything up and just go home and tell your wife and kids that it didn't work out?
Yep.
You're going to tell the client it didn't work out? So I really appreciate what you're saying. It's speaking a lot of volumes to me. So
awesome.
Thanks. I just wanted to share that.
That's great. Yeah. So I've written about that before. It's away thinking and towards thinking, right? So if you make a list, like you're saying, so if this is going to not work, what are the facts? What happens after that? Or if it worked, what did we do to make it work? And that changes the mindset, right? So you have this list of, you use example, closing a restaurant. Well, we're going to end up closing this restaurant, and that's going to create X, Y, and Z. We're going to close the restaurant because of this. Well, what if we made this restaurant a success? How would we do it? And it's great when I take managers on this ride a little bit. Well, I would be better with the guests. Oh, I would do more outside marketing. Oh, really? So if we committed 10 hours a week to outside marketing, this restaurant could grow. Oh, yeah, it actually could. Well, meanwhile, they're so stuck in the gloom and doom, they don't understand that just 10 hours a week of getting out in the community could help it.
It becomes a muscle memory in both ways, right?
Yes.
Like a muscle memory to get into the negative mentality, but also a muscle memory to say to yourself, wait, I need to ask myself this question before I go down that path.
Yep.
Because then you can sort of reset yourself. So I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Awesome. So I guess let me go into real quick. I know we're getting closer on time, and I want to make sure I leave room for questions. But Devin asked me to speak a little bit about expansion and growth. There's a lot in that. So number one, what you believe in your conscious mind and your subconscious mind is going to be really important. So what you believe about yourself, your self-image. If you have a self-image that's not consistent with your goal, you're never going to achieve it. So if you don't believe you're good enough, you're not going to achieve it. So if you say, oh, I want to open up a cupcake store, but you're a horrible baker, but you love cupcake stores, it's never going to work because you're opening a store going, I'm not good at this. So as an example of that, I don't love going through my P&Ls. I don't love going through the details of all the finances of my company. I like the final P&L, and I like to go through it, and I can read it great, and I can go through and say, we're too high here, I don't like generating it. I don't like doing the work behind that. So I have a CFO, I have a staff accountant, I have a senior controller. I probably have a little bit bigger of a financial office than some restaurant owners because I don't want to be bogged down by that. That's not where my strength is. So I know that. I recognize that about myself. So I would never open an accounting office as a good example. I would never be like, oh, I found this accounting office for sale, I'm going to open it. There's no thrill in that for me, right? So when you're trying to figure out things that you want to do, your conscious mind has to first come up with the idea, but then your subconscious mind, there's sort of a gate between them. So here's my idea. Your subconscious mind is what makes it all happen. The reticular activating formation and everything in your brain, that old stuff back in your brain that's been there since we were cavemen, right? That stuff is really where your autopilot comes from. So if you take an idea and it doesn't make it back into this autopilot zone of your brain, you're constantly having to motivate yourself and do stuff because Your brain just doesn't believe you're going to do it. It's the best example I can give you is you start exercising and running in April. That's easy. You get up in the morning in April, it's 68 degrees, it's sunny out. I'm going to go run 2-3 miles. That's great. Your brain will say, hey, let's get up. Subconsciously, your subconscious goes, hey, wake up. We're going to go running today. Try that same thing January 15th in cold rain and snow. Your subconscious brain's like, I know you. There's no way you're going out to run in the rain. There's no way you're going to run out in the snow. I'm not going to put this as a priority. I'm not going to wake you up. Right? Same thing's true of success. If you're looking, like I always have restaurant opportunities pop up to me. One, we've built a name over time, but even before that, there's just my subconscious brain is always tuned in to certain types of opportunities, and it's turned away from other ones. Right? So I've been doing this experiment with my son. My son's 16. He drives now. It's great. It's awesome. He's got his permit. And lately he's like, Dad, I've been noticing Mini Coopers lately. And I go, no, you're not. He's like, your subconscious for some reason is drawing them to you. And him and I will be driving along and he'll be like, did you see that Mini Cooper, Dad? I said, no, because it's not implanted in my brain to look for a Mini Cooper. But if I was looking for a red Ferrari, I would have saw the red Ferrari. I would have saw it in a parking lot hidden behind 10 cars because my subconscious would have said, this is important to you. Pay attention. So it's funny because I'm having my son experiment with it and he's like, man, you're right. I see all of these Mini Coopers, but my friend don't. And I said, yes. So you're alert to the opportunity of a Mini Cooper for some reason, or your friend's alert to an opportunity of a Ford F-150, whatever it happens to be. The same thing happens in life. If you're alert to specific opportunities because it's ingrained in you. So sometimes you got to take stuff from that frontal lobe deep into who you are, and you got to think about it. That's where some of that law of attraction type thinking does come into play, where you can spend time saying, this is what's important to me. This is what's important to me, and sink it into your brain. So a couple things about expansion. Move when you're 80% there. When you want to do more, when you want to grow, it's never going to be as perfect as your first thing. I hate to break that to you, but when I opened the very first Kildare's in Westchester, little tiny store, 4,000 square feet, that business did $4 million a year. No other operator ever got it to $4 million a year. Nobody that ever worked for me got it to $4 million a year. It got to 3.5, 3.6, and I accepted that. I also knew that I didn't want to be 70 years old sweeping up out front of Kildare's Irish Pub. I wanted to do more with my life. But I accepted that when we went from 1 store to 2 stores to 3 stores, there's going to be some attrition. Nobody's going to quite do what you do, and that's okay. But when you're trying to get going, you're never going to have all the ducks in a row. So start moving. You'll have to clean up some mess. You'll find some new opportunities in it, but don't think that every box is going to be checked when you want to do option number 2. It's never going to be perfect. Multiple operations to cover that. Plan and work the plan, then modify the plan and go again and again and again. The biggest thing I would say is develop the best systems you can possibly develop, monitor those systems, and keep working those systems time and time again. So, and I'd like to share real world stuff with you guys. This isn't make believe. So our harvest in North Wales, we have a newer chef. We have some younger managers. My director of ops, my corporate executive chef were there yesterday for 5-6 hours because they're making it hard on themselves in that business. The culinary team's not following the standard operating procedures. So they're just making their day harder. And our chef has to said, if you would have set this up this way, this up this way, and this up this way, your night would be so much easier. If the expo station was set up this way, you'd be better, more efficient, and there'd be less frantic hours during the rush. But of course, the chef had his idea. No, we have a procedure, follow the procedure, right? So when you do want to grow, the most important thing is you have to put on the hat of management of systems and processes. If anybody on this, if you ever get depressed and you want to watch a great movie, watch The Founder, the Ray Kroc story. Just amazing movie. Michael Keaton's incredible in it. The Founder, when you look at the original McDonald's brothers and how they created McDonald's, they were fanatics about systems, just absolute fanatics about systems. If you're going to have more than one unit, you got to be a fanatic about systems. So as an example, I mentioned the sports bar in North Carolina. I only have one. We're fanatic about systems, but we're not fanatic the way we are in Harvest, where we want to have 20, 30 stores, right? You have to, if you go to another store, you have to be able to function smooth. Expect everything to cost too much and take too long. Always does. Okay. My restaurant in Monterey in Mount Laurel was going to be open in September. It's now going to open the end of this month. Stuff didn't arrive, stuff didn't, all that kind of stuff. So that's really, really important. When you fail, get back up. Don't talk negative to yourself. Everybody makes mistakes. I have those days where I'm like, man, am I really even an okay restaurateur? And then I think about what I have friends call me struggling about. And I'm like, wow, we've really figured this out. Your predictions probably won't be accurate. Do the best you can. Don't beat yourself up. So, like I said, we thought college will do 100 a week. It does 85 a week. It's where it is. Now we got to grow it. And you're not going to be good at everything. Find great people around you that don't want to be you and are great at stuff. Well, I have a guy, Patrick, that works for me. He's over right now in Mount Laurel working on this restaurant. He's my director of development, does my IT stuff, does all my other banking for all my other entities and all my other things. He's worked for me for 20 years. He doesn't want to be me. He doesn't want to be the entrepreneur.
That's so important, guys. Do not like these. I want to respect everybody's time in an hour, but there's so many little points in here that could change everything for you. Like that is so important. Find somebody that doesn't want to be you. There's so much meaning and storytelling.
Now, something I've done, I'm 50 now, and something I've tried to do is now I've tried to find people that do want to be me and fund them in things. So some of what I'm doing in Florida is to not be, I do weekly calls with a restaurant run by another guy who carries all the weight and all the stress and all that. And he does want to be me one day. Great. He's not coming into harvest because that would mess up the system. So you do some one-off things there. But you're not going to be good at everything. So look for talented people to put around you. You don't have to be the best accountant. You don't have to be the best this, that, and the other. I want to close real quick and get to questions. I'll give this to you quick, and then Devin, I'll send you this short little list, and it should work pretty well. Goal setting. We've all learned about goal setting. I wrote about goal setting. There's a ton of different ways to do goal setting. I'm going to give you my goal setting sort of path that works for me. Number one, clear the noise and the clutter. You can't have 50 ideas in your brain and start to focus. If you focus on 1, 2, or 3 things, that works. So what are your financial goals? What's your career goals? Maybe what's your vacation or family goals, things like that. But you can't be sitting there saying, I really want to open this coffee shop, but I'm daydreaming about Disney, going on my vacation in 2 months. It's not going to work. When you decide you want a goal, you got to clear everything so you can take it from your frontal lobe back into your subconscious, so you become your goal. It becomes autopilot. The next thing, make sure your self-image is on board. We talked about this. If you don't believe you can, either does your subconscious brain. Your subconscious brain will not believe you, and then you're pushing uphill all the time. And that's why you need motivation, right? You need motivation because you're not inspired. You're not inspired because it's not deep in you. It's not who you see yourself as. Write your goals down, short-term goals, long-term goals, read them all the time. Write them down. Don't type them. Don't put them in your phone. Don't put them on your computer. Take the actual act of writing down in your handwriting, your eyes seeing that, your hand doing that is different. I literally I have a yellow notepad, small one here at my house in my kitchen. And I sat down last night and I just went through some of my goals that I'm working on right now. Monterey is obviously a goal about what that's going to open at and how we're going to make that happen, where I want my income to be next year based on all these. We've opened 4 restaurants over this year. And I haven't yet adapted my income to 4 new restaurants. So where do I want my income starting in January? And that's delayed gratification, by the way, right? Not taking the money out right away. So now in January, I can say, all right, this is what these restaurants look like they're going to annualize to. Here's what I'm going to take from them, right? So you start looking at stuff like that. So write your goals down. Big thing is, if you read your goals a couple times a day, once a day, if you look at them consistently enough, they become embedded in what you are, and they help keep the distractions out. Okay. They really do help keep the distractions away. And then the last thing, persist and adapt, right? Persist, adapt, take massive action. The universe loves big action, right? The universe loves people that go out there and just charge at stuff and make stuff happen. And you're like, wow, all this great stuff's happening and coming my way. You know why? Because you got off the sidelines and you got in the game and you went big. And when you go big, stuff starts coming around to help you. People are attracted to you. Situations open up to you. When you're sitting in the corner scared, nothing's coming your way. People don't want to do business with somebody who's scared. They want to do business with somebody who's enthusiastic, positive, and believes in what they're doing. So I'm gonna leave it there for questions then, Devin. And I do have a couple books. If anybody has a question about what books I like, I'm a reader and a rereader all the time. So, but I want to give time for questions. So,
Does anybody have anything? Don't be shy. Get some questions asked. I have a list of questions because I'm always trying to grow and learn. So if you don't have questions, I will line up some that I know will help you. Patricia said, can you put the books in the chat? I also post in the community too, so everybody can see it, especially those.
yeah, I'm going to email Devin this list. It's got the books on there too.
Perfect.
So I think I saw Michelle raise her hand.
Yep, Michelle, let's go.
I did. Hello. Thank you so much. I was listening. I was coming from the gym, so I apologize. I don't know what my screen looked like. But anyway, this was like an incredible call. Like you had me getting choked up because you spoke like it was amazing. But anyway, my question is, I believe I am getting more focused. So I work with parents, teachers, and coaches, helping them with strategies in dealing with child behaviors. So increasing skills to decrease inappropriate behaviors. And that's where my target audience has been, really the parents, and then how I can help with the school or on the field, like for coaches. But lately, and like things are opening up and I'm very, very excited. I just through talking and networking, I've been approached by people at Mathnasium and a company called Better Tomorrows. They want me to train their staff in order to work with children, and they want me to do webinars. I'm like, I have so many like exciting things going on. So when I come to like marketing and like branding and like putting stuff out there, now I'm like, okay, am I still directing this towards parents, or like how narrow should my focus be? Like in talking about focus, like I'm still in the same direction, but it's changing gears, which I'm excited about.
Okay.
But I have like people asking me about webinars. There's a company in Texas I might be working with. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like amazing stuff. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that? I know I'm kind of going a mile a minute.
No, so I don't know your business model and how you derive your profits. So what I would just say based on your opportunities that are presenting is it sounds like you're moving into the field of becoming a recognized expert, right? It may be small for right now, but people are seeking you out because what you do is unique. You're an expert at it. I look at it a couple different ways. Number one, the parents and the schools and the coaches and things like that. Parents obviously should always be one of your customers, right? So if you have 3 pillars of customers and how they all generate you profit, you'll have to figure that out, right? So maybe the profit you can generate off of parents is X, and you decide that you want to have 50 parents in this column. What you're going to probably find and have probably found with schools is you end up entering that bureaucracy. There's a lot of cows in the school systems, right? Where it's like the union says this or this says that, or the administration says this. I did Rhino talks for freshmen. We went in and did freshmen at Pendelco, and it was awesome. And they actually really embraced it. But getting through that door took like a year, right? I like this idea of Mathnasium and for-profit companies, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to use your knowledge to make their business more profitable, make their employees better educated, have their employees better impact their consumer, which is going to make their business better in that whole cycle. I don't know your economic model, but that one of like the Mathnasium, the company in Texas, I'd be really looking into that, because you have a company where there'll probably be a lot less barriers. And that company is for profit and wants to make money, which means you can generate money off of that. I look at the parents a very similar way. If you're charging a fair price and a fair fee for what you're doing, they're getting in return, they're going to refer a bunch of parents. One of the things I think about right away in you doing this, and webinars and a website and all these things, would be testimonials. When I was a chiropractor, I had a little TV show, and we always did testimonials. I would take a half hour on cable TV, which you can't do the way I used to do. But literally 90% of the show wasn't me. It was a mom with her kids saying, my kids don't get asthma anymore, ear infections, or my husband couldn't walk, and here's my husband, now he walks, right? That testimonial stuff's amazing. And I think if you're going to build this out and try to get more, if there's parents that like what you've done, coaches that like what you've done, And then you get over to Mathnasium and somebody from there is willing to share your story a little bit. I look at that as you do go to grow this thing, the testimonial thing will make you, people will believe in you more as an expert. But I'd be really interested, if I was you, to go down that for-profit road while still going down the school. The problem that sometimes happens in these school districts and things is this changes, the board changes, a superintendent changes, a coach leaves, whatever. I did, as a chiropractor, I gave free chiropractic care to the wrestling team because I was a wrestler in high school, and we had to go through these hurdles. But once we got through the hurdles, then I was in. That was great. But so I would look at it that way.
And Dave, if you could see, man, months ago, I don't know how long it was, Michelle, but when she joined in the Harvest, she had this job, and then she had this vision, and then eventually said, guys, I'm going all in on this. And then there was like you just saw it. It's like, then it was, I'm struggling, trying to get it going. And man, it was like almost brought me to tears hearing Michelle talk about how all these opportunities are now coming her way, man. I'm so proud of you, Michelle. Keep it going, keep believing, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And good question. Most importantly, you got somebody like Dave on here who can solve a problem, get knowledge. Good job asking a question. Anybody else have anything before we sign off? It is 8:00. All right, guys, do not forget to, as you hear this man who's already accomplished so much, talk about writing things down, forecast, like his habits, rituals, and routines still stay in effect. Like these micro disciplines, you know what? I operate, don't forget this too, 15-minute meetings with my management team, right? Some of you, why isn't my management team doing this? Why aren't they doing that? And they don't have intimate conversations with you weekly, right? So these micro disciplines, these habits, rituals, and routines, all this stuff that he talks about with everything that he's learned from these books, being a lifetime student, all these things, all right, what the Harvest is about in here. So you see somebody at this level still reading books, still challenging themselves, still putting new habits, rituals, and routines in place. Don't forget that, and don't miss that, because a lot of us on this call aren't where this guy is at. And when we ask you, I'm thinking to myself, this guy's where he's at right now. I should be doing everything that he's trying to do times 10 so I can get there quicker. Right? So, Dave, this is so
Thanks,
good.
guys.
So many lessons in here, brother. I appreciate you impacting my family on here. And thank you so much, brother.
I'll give you one last thing to take. That you talk about routines and morning routines. Going through COVID, as you can imagine, was very difficult on us. We closed all our restaurants for an extended period of time. I had to get out of my own COVID funk. Tony Robbins does this great morning priming ritual. You can find it on YouTube. I do that every morning. I did it this morning before being with you guys. That is, you can just Google on YouTube, Tony Robbins priming ritual. It's like 15 minutes. It may work for you. It may not. I got to tell you, it has brought more peace to me. It has brought more enthusiasm to me. It starts my day off better. And on days I don't do it, I always notice I don't do it. On a day where I don't have time to do it, I always notice I don't do it. It's 15 minutes to get your day started right. And again, pick from people you like. If that doesn't gel with you, I guarantee you somebody else has something simple.
Good job, guys. Well, listen, share the call, guys. Support his new restaurant in Mount Laurel when it opens. I will make sure we'll have a Harvest meet up there so we can all check it out. Connect with Dave, guys. And thank you all so much for making a commitment for yourselves by being on this call, guys. Thank you and have an amazing day. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.